Hi, welcome back to the channel and to this next video of the hagercad video series. Now in the last video we added KNX components to our little smart home project. And there we got to a point where we can no longer work with the automatic mode, but instead we have to switch to the manual mode. And this is what we will do in this video after the intro. So I am back here in hagercad itself, and I'm not within a project, so not within our smart home project, but instead I'm at the dashboard. Because before I want to start the process of converting the project, I first of all want to create a copy of it. This is because the process of converting I can't revert afterwards. So for example, when I see that I have missed something which would be much faster with the automatic mode, then I can just go back to the copied version of my project, add those things there, and then restart the conversion from this state of the project. So therefore I will right click on my smart home project and click on copy. Now copy all. And now you can see we have a new project here, which is called new, which simply is a copy of our smart home project. And I will rename this project here from new to smart home automatic, so that I know that this is the automatic version of it, and I will now work inside of this version and start the conversion. So therefore I open up the project here. Now in order to start the conversion of it, this is pretty straightforward. You simply go over here to diagram, and then there is a button under tools, convert into manual multiline diagram. Be aware that after pressing the button, the conversion process starts immediately and you can't roll back. So I click it now, and hagercad will now convert our automatic diagram into a manual diagram, and with that the table view is gone and we now only see our diagram sheets. Now drawing within these diagram sheets is the same like within our control diagram, but I still want to show you another tool that we didn't use in the last video, because in the last video we drew the wires one by one. Therefore we used this tool here, draw wire, and here we just drew one wire after each other. But here you can already see that here is a tool that is called draw multiwire. With that, if I now press on L1 for example, you can now see that hagercad draws all those wires that it saw nearby, and I can also enable or disable some of them. So for example, I can only draw L1 and L2 at the same time. I will click escape for now, because I don't want to draw a wire here, but this is how you can draw the wires a little bit faster. Now let's start to work on the missing parts of our diagram, which we couldn't finish with the automatic mode. So I go here to the second page, and here I already have the first to do that we have, because here our dimming actuator needs its bus connection. So therefore I start to draw a wire down, so minus and plus, and now I want to create a cross reference over to our control diagram. To do this I click here on add cross reference, and now here I can click on new to create a new cross reference, clicking on OK, and now you can see an arrow which is bound to my cursor, and with a right click on it I can rotate it to place it here to my minus wire. Now I need another cross reference for the plus wire, so again click on new, then on OK, and rotating it, placing it down, and now I can close this window for now, and I go over to our control diagram. Within our control diagram I can now place those created cross references. So I click again on add cross reference, and now we don't want to create a new reference, but instead we want to use a created reference. So here number 18 and 19. So I start with number 18, placing it down and rotating it, and again the same thing with number 19, rotating it and placing it down, and then I click on OK. And then I click on cancel. So just closing the window. Now we can draw the wire, so plus to plus and minus to minus. And now you see there seems to be a bug with one of those actuators here, which always converts KNX plus to plus. So that means that we always have to revert this process here. So we click on the wire and change the wire type from plus to KNX plus. And with that, the wire is red again. So now we have added our cross references. So I go back to the second page, and another thing that you might already have seen is that after converting our diagram to the manual diagram, the arrows here changed. Because before the conversion, the cross reference was one arrow for all those wires here. Now after converting it, we have an arrow for each wire on its own. So now that the cross reference is done, I will go to the third page. And here on the third page, the only thing that we wanted to change here was that we wanted to change the output of our socket circuit, or to be precise, the second socket circuit, to a 5-pole output. So now we have 3 poles or 3 wires, and we wanted to change it to 5 wires so that we have 1 wire which is switched and 1 wire which always has the 230 volt potential. So in order to change it, I do a double click on our output here or on our terminal. And with that, this window now appears. And here inside of this window, we can now specify the number of phases that we want to have. So currently we have 1 phase only, but we want to have a 5-wire cable. So therefore I change the number of phases here to 3. And you can now already see that we have 5 wires here. Quickly changing it back to multicore and adding our cable type. Now I click on associate, and with that you can now see that we have our 2 additional wires here which we can use. And now I simply draw a wire here from this point on and create sort of a bypass to our switching contact and move it down again here. And now in this cable we have 1 wire which is switched by our switching actuator and 1 wire which isn't switched. And this is something that we couldn't do in the automatic mode, because if you take a look back here at the first terminal here where we wanted to try it, you can see that the cable type itself did change. However, it didn't draw those 2 additional wires to it. So I quickly changed the output here so that the wire type itself is correct again. So going down here, and now I change it here to 3 times 2.5 millimeters, clicking on associate, and now it fits. You can still see that there are some errors on this page, because here on this and this connection, the protective earth has a direct connection instead of a connection via a terminal. And so therefore I want to change it, and I can easily change it on both of them by simply clicking on the first one, then holding down the control key and clicking on the second one. And then here on top I have my connection button, which I will click now, and I will click on terminals. When I click it, you can see that both of those connections are now made via terminal and even with the protective earth. So now also this error is done. Now this could be easily done also with the automatic mode. Now that's that. Let us take a look at the fourth page. So here on the fourth page, you can see that here we also have the same error, because here our protective earth is also made via a direct connection, which I want to change. So I select all of them now by drawing such a selection box. And here you saw that I draw the selection box from the left to the right side. Now if I would have drawn it from the right to the left side, you can also see that those wires here were selected, because when I draw from the left to the right side, only those items get selected that are completely within this selection box, while from the right to the left side, every item gets connected that touches this selection box. So I select all of them, then go back to connection here and click on terminals. So we also change that. Now, for example, if I would like to create another power diagram sheet, so creating it here with this add a power sheet symbol, you can see it got moved to the 6th page, which I will change. So I will move it up now that it is just behind this last page here. And if I would like now to create a cross-reference from our phases here to the next page, I could either create the cross-references like we did with the KNX connection, but hagercad is providing us with a nice feature for this sort of cross-reference that we need to create. So first of all, I want to draw the protective earth all the way here to the right-hand side. And then I want all those wires here also on the next page. And I can do this by clicking here on spread wires. And if I have spread wires selected, I can now draw such a selection box, and I make sure that I have selected all of those phases as well as neutral and protective earth. And now you can see I can create a cross-reference automatically from those wires to the page that I want to select. And now you have to make sure that you select a page that is empty. Then I click on OK. And you can see here on the 5th page, we now also have here on top L1 to N and also our protective earth down below. And with this way, you can create those wires and cross-references a little bit easier and faster. I will delete the page for now because we don't need it. And also go back here to the 4th page and delete this cross-reference here. Now make sure to draw from left to right. So that I have selected all. And with that, we are finished also on this page here. And on the 5th page now, I want to add a new KNX device, which we haven't added in the last video, which is a twilight switch. So I go here to the catalogs page, then to board devices and to home automation system. And here I go to automation module, and within the automation module you can see that here we have the twilight switch, which I will simply add into our project. I will place it down. And you can see the connections that this twilight switch has is on the one hand side our bus connection, and on the other side the sensor, so the twilight sensor. But you can already see that the twilight sensor itself can't be placed down here. Because if we take a look back at the catalogs page here, the sensor itself is sort of an accessory to this twilight switch. Because here under accessories, we can see that we have two kinds of twilight sensors. And in order to get this into our diagram, we have to add it to our twilight switch itself. So now you can see we have the twilight switch and the sensor itself as an accessory. Now if I would click here now on add, it would add the twilight switch as well as the sensor. But what I want to do is I want to change the existing twilight switch. So therefore I do a right click here on my twilight switch, click on modify, and via the modify option I can also add accessories if I have forgotten them. So I will use this wall mounted version for it, click on modify, and with that you can see that we now also have the sensor which we can place down, and we can also now draw the wires to it. I have misplaced it by one field, so quickly change that and then draw the wire again. And the same here for our KNX wires, and you can already see that this bug still is present. So I go back here and click to KNX Plus. And with that, we now have added our twilight switch as well as the sensor itself. Now you can see that the connection here is made via direct connection, but it could be the case that you use terminal clamps in between. In order to draw terminals in between such a line, you can simply do it by clicking here on Symbol, Hager symbols, then on Terminal, and here you now have multiple options that you can choose. I will choose this option here, and now I can also place it in between, and you can already see that hagercad is recognizing it as a terminal, so it gives it the X2 terminal block number as well as the terminal number 74 and 75. And the last thing that I want to do here is that I want to make sure that everyone that sees this diagram knows that this sensor doesn't sit within the enclosure but outside of it. So therefore I want to create text which I can place down here. To do this, I click here on Drawing, and there we have the text option. And if I click on it, I can now enter a text. So for example, mounted outside. You also saw that I created a line break in between. Then I click on OK, and now I can place it down, but I think it's a little bit big. So I change the text size here. Well, maybe go down to 5. And I want to change the color of it to red. And here you can also change the font style itself. I will place it down, then close this field here, and with that we also have created text on our diagram sheet. And you can see the error here appeared again, so I have to edit it again. So just remember maybe to edit this line here just before you print it, because this is what I want to do now as our diagram itself is finished. Well, maybe only one thing is still missing, which is here our cover page, and I will quickly create it here by clicking on this Add a Cover Page sheet. Now you can see that this page here is pretty empty besides this My Company here. Now in order to fill out those fields here, you just have to remember the properties that you have to change now, which I will show you now. So first of all, you have to click here on Q1, and then you have to edit the description of it. So not the marking, but the description, which I will just name the same. And with that, you can see that here below we have the description that appears now. Then these fields here on top are under our main folder here. I ignore it for now. Then under Smart Home, we have to edit the name of site. I stick here to Smart Home. And then under Stakeholders, the company name itself, this is the first field. The company name itself you can change within your user settings from the dashboard, which I showed you in the first video. So if I go back now here to our diagram, you can see that all those fields are filled out. And with that, we successfully have created our diagram. Now the only thing that is missing is that we want to print it. And this is pretty straightforward. We simply click here on Grouped Printing. Then we can specify which locations we want to print out. So in this case Q1. And the documents that we want to print. So the electric diagram. I click here on Print. And after printing your diagram, your default PDF tool should open up with the electrical diagram. So you can see our cover page and then the electrical diagram itself, as well as the terminal blocks. But here I forgot to recalculate them. So in order to recalculate it, you simply click here on terminal block calculation, selecting all, add terminal blocks, add cables, clicking on OK. And now I would have to print it again so that the terminal block plans are also representing the current state. So with that, we have successfully created our electrical diagram for this little smart home project. So that's that for this video. You now saw in this video and the last videos how you can create an electrical diagram with the help of hagercad. But this project still isn't finished, because in the next video we want to create the enclosure plan with the help of hagercad. So make sure to subscribe to the channel to get notified for the new video. If you still have any questions left or suggestions for new videos, make sure to write them down in the comments below, and I'm excited to see you in the next video.